Next on Heartland Highways, we're ending season 11 with a look at 3 very different groups and places. The first story's a ringer as we learn all about the Illinois State Horseshoe Pitchers Association.
Then we'll treat you to a behind-the-scenes look at a colorful show that visited Eastern Illinois University's own Doudna Fine Arts Center.
And finally, we revisit the Lilly House and Gardens in Indianapolis.
That's coming up, so stay tuned.
Well, Lori, here we are for our final episode of season 11 on Heartland Highways.
This week we've got an eclectic collection of stories that range from a one-man show to a historic house.
But first, we're going to meet a group you might not hear about every day. Our guest storyteller this week is Casey Berry, a graduate student here at WEIU.
Casey introduces us to the Illinois State Horseshoe Pitchers Association, a group keeping the traditional game fresh and fun.
They meet in various places throughout the state, and they even host a tournament every year. Take a look.
So I started throwing shoes when I was 9 years old.
While Floyd Tennell began pitching at a young age, Joel Hicks didn't start throwing horseshoes until he was a little older.
Oh, I've been throwing horseshoes for about 11 years now. Started in the guy's backyard, just started throwing, and I went to a couple of small tournaments and realized there was a lot of people throwing in major tournaments. And so I got me a card and I started throwing in them.
But Hicks isn't the only pitcher in his family. His wife, Chris Hicks, throws a few shoes herself.
She beats me all the time, let's put it that way. I used to beat her, and then she's only been throwing 3 years, and she's been the state champion for the last 3 years. She caught right onto it, and she hasn't looked back since she caught onto it either.
Now, regardless of how many more points his wife scores than him, Hicks says only one thing is important.
Oh, we have fun doing it. As long as I stay out of her way when she's throwing. She gets a little serious about it. I gotta stay out of her way.
But it's not all fun and games. Some people who come out play to win. Scoring can get a bit complicated when pitching horseshoes, but George Huntington breaks it all down.
You get 3 points for a ringer and 1 point for a close shoe. And when you both throw it, we normally play a game called cancellation. So if my opponent throws a ringer and I throw a ringer, there's no score. So if there's a close shoe, then someone gets a close shoe. And on our website, we have a calling code that everybody utilizes, so everybody's on the same page. But when you throw back and forth, if you tie on ringers, there's no points. It's when you don't tie, that's when you gain your points.
Huntington says preparation for tournaments is key.
Well, what I like to do, I don't like to pitch the day before. It's just something that in all my sports, I like to just kind of cool it. But you work on timing. Timing is a big thing in any sport, but in horseshoes, timing is almost everything. If you don't have timing, and in our website, it'll tell you that when you're first starting out in horseshoes, you got to have the shoe land open and flat. That's your first order of business. Then you worry about hitting the stake. Because if the shoe comes in there sideways, you're not going to get a ringer. And that's the idea, to get ringers.
I just try to get loose, and you got to remember not to get all tensed up when you get out there. Just go out there and have fun. That's the best way to do it. Just go out there and throw like you're going to have some fun. Because you start getting all tensed up, you start throwing all over the place and everything. But that's the best thing. Just loosen yourself up and have fun.
And several pitchers throw their hands and make some big points.
I'm right at 40%. A lot of you people out here that are in these first 3 courts here, I mean, they throw 70 and 80%. They're some of the best throwers we have in Illinois, matter of fact.
But to get there takes a lot of practice.
You figure we practice 3 or 4 times a week, me and my wife do, and we'll throw 200 to 300 shoes a night. So and that's about what you throw here, is probably around 200 to 300 shoes. No, we're kind of used to throwing that many shoes, so it's not so bad. When it gets real hot, it's a little bit harder, but like days like today, it's great. I mean, sit out there and throw. I could sit out here and throw all day. It wouldn't bother me.
So you may be wondering, how much does it cost to pitch horseshoes?
And it's a fairly cheap sport. Horseshoes cost about 50 to 70 bucks, you know. So that's about it.
There's no other sport that's as cheap as horseshoes is as far as playing and entering and things like that. So
It's a good sport for the older people and younger people because there's not a lot of physical, there is some physical to it, but it's not enough that, an older person can do it and throw 40, 50 shoes at a game and rest a little bit and go out and throw 40 more. And it's good, I'd say you get a lot of walking exercise.
Huntington says he gets in as much pitching time as possible.
And actually tournaments, I get in about maybe 3 a month. But I pitch about 5-6 days a week. I have a court in my backyard. Full concrete, everything. I only pitch for like November, December, then I go south for 3 months, and I pitch where it's warmer.
Hicks and Huntington say the more they get involved, the more friends they make, and the more friends they can bring along, the more fun they'll have.
You try to introduce them, let them pitch some, and a lot of times they'll say, well, this is not too bad, and the people are great. So it's like campers. You don't hardly find a bad apple.
All the people we've ever met are just so nice. And you're just like, everybody's known you for your whole lifetime, it's just that nice of people.
So, how can you get involved?
get you a pair of shoes and come out. The courts are always open anytime you want to play, practice or whatever, just get started. And like I say, practice makes perfect.
Get on the Illinois Horseshoe Pitchers Association website, and that will give you all the information about where horseshoes are being thrown in your area and who you need to talk to about it. Anybody that's interested, we'd be more than happy to get them started in it for sure.
In the winter of 2013, Eastern Illinois University's Doudna Fine Arts Center hosted the national preview tour of Kaleidoscopica, The Art of Unfolding. This stage presentation is the creative fusion of the Chorus Ensemble and the Lehrer Dance Company. The result is a visually stunning show that combines music, dance, lights, and aerial arts. Dwight Vaught, director of the Doudna Fine Arts Center, brings us this story.
I want to leave the audience with a sensory experience like they've never felt before, in every sense.
When you come in, no matter what's happening, whether it's your birthday or you're dealing with some darker things, whatever it is that brought you to the theater, you're in by the time you leave, everyone is on the same page. Everyone has the same feeling and the same energy. That's what we want to bring.
Those are the words of John Lehrer and Richard Grimes, the creative forces behind Kaleidoscopica. The show is a combination of live music by the Chorus Ensemble and contemporary dance and aerialists from the Lehrer Dance Company. How these two groups came together to form this show was really by accident.
It's very interesting how this came about. I'll start there and then I'll give you my input on the name and stuff. We were performing at a showcase in Pennsylvania, one of those presenter showcases where you go and get bookings. And we did our little thing, and then they have cocktail parties afterwards where you schmooze and stuff. And Richard came up to me at this cocktail party, and he told me about this thing that he had this idea for, Kaleidoscopica. He wanted Chorus to be more than Chorus. He wanted to create a bigger show, but he needed a dance company. He needed a dance company. He couldn't do it. So he said, he came and saw us at the showcase and said, you guys are it. You're exactly what we're looking for. The funny thing is this, he didn't come to see us. He came to see the company that was on before us. And I won't say who they were, but he was sent there by various people to look at this other company for Kaleidoscopica. And once he saw us, he said, no, it's got to be Lehrer Dance.
So when I saw John's showcase, I turned to the agent that I was with, not Meredith, but our other agent, and I said, this is the one. And I went to John the next day and I proposed the project and I shared some of the music with him, and he got back to me later that night and said, game on.
I then dove into it artistically with Richard to create what it actually will be. And what that is for us is this whole thing of Kaleidoscopica, for me, definitely starts with the visual of a kaleidoscope. the idea of that different shapes are unfolding and folding before your eyes, and that we're adding the artistic integrity to that, and by combining dance, music, aerial arts, and tremendous lighting, we're bringing four things together to become something greater than any of them could be by themselves. And that, to me, is the art of unfolding. So this one thing unfolds like it cannot by itself.
The four-piece Cordis Ensemble is based in Boston. They're known for their contemporary chamber music and an unusual instrument choice like the cymbalum, which is the national instrument of Hungary.
Cymbalum is a zither-type instrument. In the U.S. we have Appalachian dulcimer, which is a smaller type of zither. It's just stretched horizontal string.
Small hammer hitting a string of something.
Yeah, hammer with cotton or wood hitting the string. Sometimes in the Middle East, the zithers they play there are called quantums. They pick them with plectrons or plastic picks. But either way, it's all kind of from the same mother lode. I play an electric cymbalum. It's not, and that is the only one in the world. We had that designed. I had it designed for the group, and it kind of fits in with the texture of what we sound like. So I play an electric cymbalum. You go down the line to Andrew Beal, who is our percussionist, and that's one of the largest percussion setups in North America. It's enormous. You go down the line one step further, and you have Jeremy Harmon, who plays electric and acoustic cello. And so that kind of grounds the group. Suddenly it's not some crazy instrument. You know what that... He plays electric, which is kind of crazy, but he plays acoustic too. So it brings it back to something familiar. And then at the end of the line is Brian O'Neill. And he plays piano, he plays keyboard. Once again, it's a standard instrument that you recognize. But so we have a little bit new and a little bit familiar.
So Cordis kind of has its double side. So we have our acoustic side and we have our electric side. So it is a dual setup of traditional 88 key piano and then keyboard to do synthesizer and that type of thing.
The Lehrer Dance Company, based in Buffalo, New York, consists of 8 dancers, 4 men and 4 women. Their style has been described as organically athletic.
Both the men and the women are very strong and can do amazing things. But what we do with this athleticism is we make it very organic. So we always say it's the approach of modern dance combined with the athleticism and virtuosity of jazz and ballet. And we combine those things together to create a hybrid form that really has become our signature, and we call it organic athleticism.
You know, I have classical ballet training, whereas Teddy break dances and Kurt tap dances. So every day I think with him and with each other, we are feeding off this immense amount of passion for dance, whatever style we really chose to be in. So I think that's what really sets us apart, is how different we are from each and every one of us, from each other and from any other company, really.
The music of Cordis and the aesthetic of Lehrer work very well together. However, dancing to live music is a challenge that both groups certainly embrace.
Just like anything live, they may take liberties on certain things that aren't in that studio recording. So wait, what just happened here? I thought this was the, you know, so that's the challenge. So we know, and now because we've been kind of working on this for about a year in cultivating it, the dancers and I know that, okay, we're rehearsing to this, but we know that some things are going to sound different. And there might be extra phrases that weren't on that recording. We're ready to do, and when we get on stage together, we have hashed that out and we know. So that's really the challenge. But above all, performing to live music is such an amazing thing, and to be able to do a whole show that's based on live music with them on stage, they're not in the pit, they are right there behind them. It's just fantastic.
When we bring the dancers in, we adjust to them because it's a lot harder for them to, if you're doing a toss or something like that, you can't, could you just slow down the toss when you throw that person? Like, no. So we have to be cognizant of that, and I think my percussion background helps with that, and having accompanied people, we're all pretty tuned into that kind of stuff. So it's great in that I love having a group where 75% of us have drummers. So we're really clued into stuff with time, and making sure stuff locks in and adjusting on the fly and that type of thing. So
The performance of Kaleidoscopica, The Art of Unfolding, in January of 2013 at the Doudna Fine Arts Center was the national preview tour, meaning this was the first time the show had been performed outside of their New York home.
There's nothing can replace that raw energy of doing something for the first time. And when you have a group of professionals that are so skilled at their individual craft, that no matter what, that energy is going to shine through in this show. And it's very exciting for us, too, to actually be on the road with this show and seeing where it will go.
I think the intensity that we feel when we're dancing and this passion that we have for this movement that we were given, as well as this incredible sound that we're surrounded by, especially because we're right there on stage with these band members, is so incredible for us to experience as dancers, that we really just want the audience to feel that same amount of passion and excitement that we bring to the stage, or we believe that we bring to the stage.
For us in Lara Dance, we strive really to bridge the gap between artistry and accessibility and really bring them together to create something more than either of them. And that's what we believe in Lara Dance, but that's also what this show does, more than we could ever do by ourselves.
Now you can watch Heartland Highways online anytime. Check us out at youtube.com/WEIU-TV. Once you're there, just look for the Heartland Highways playlist, which will take you to a list of full episodes from seasons 7 through 11. And if you subscribe to our channel, you'll automatically be notified of when new programs are available to view, so sign up today.
This final story is one of my favorites from season 8. We traveled to Indianapolis to the Lilly House and Gardens, which is part of the Indianapolis Museum of Art. This getaway within the city offers visitors a chance to experience life as it was during the American country place era. During the late 1800s and early 1900s, well-to-do businessmen and industrialists constructed expansive country estates as weekend getaways. Here in the Midwest, one of the most notable and well-preserved examples still exists.
Estate is really part of the country place era that began back in the 1890s and continued on until about the onset of World War II. And I think what makes this property so very special is that it's almost entirely intact from the way that it was built back in 1912. And it's an expansive property, some 26 acres in total, but has a wide range of types of gardens throughout, from the very formal to the very informal.
Two Indianapolis families lived in the house. The Landons were the original builders and occupants of what they called Oldfields.
Mr. Landon was involved in the Indianapolis Water Company, and he and a partner were looking for land that might have served as a reservoir, but later their interest became diverted, one might say, and they undertook a land development here on some of the highlands nearby, and this became the town of Woodstock. It was about 52 acres originally. Well, Mr. Landon chose to build in a sort of a simplified French chateau style. So you'll see it has some of those typical characteristics, the hipped roof, the projecting pavilions. At the time the house was built, it had a ground floor entrance that was combined with a stair tower in one of those projecting pavilions. And all those are characteristics taken directly from French chateau architecture.
Once the house was completed, landscaping plans were underway that would eventually provide magnificent views from all directions.
The initial layout of the property was done by a Scotsman, George McDougall, who worked with the Landon family, not only in this property, but a number of other ones here in the north side of Indianapolis. And he laid out just a general scheme of driveways and things to get the family to the house itself, but laid out the formal garden somewhat like what we see today, but with some revisions later on.
Designer Percival Gallagher, who worked for the well-known Olmsted Brothers landscape architects in Brookline, Massachusetts, was hired by the Landons to further develop the property and the gardens.
He revised the formal garden, made it a bit more formal than it had been before, added some other sculptural elements, including the arbors that are there now, a very formal limestone bench. But the ravine garden was really done from scratch. That was just really a drainage ditch for the whole property. When it rained heavily, like it did last night here, all of that water would have cascaded down the hillside, down into the river below. But he formalized that with a series of curving pathways, put a bridge over the creek that he created, had 3 pools built, all rock lined, that would catch that water and let it cascade down.
The land in front of the house was really quite undifferentiated at the time Mr. Gallagher came here, and he viewed that as inappropriate and incomplete. Now there were these open views, distant views to the west that he thought were quite attractive, sort of in the Olmstedian tradition of open wilderness, and he wanted something at the front of the house to act as a foil to counterbalance that, and so he created this allée feature out the front that sort of gives structure and formality and balance, you might say. So you have formal to the front and informal to the rear. And flanking that allée were border gardens or strolling gardens that you view much more closely. It's a more intimate setting.
In the early 1930s, Hugh Landon sold the estate to J.K. Lilly Jr., grandson of Colonel Eli Lilly, founder of Eli Lilly Pharmaceuticals.
You know, the Lillys became the stewards of the landscape that the Landons had built and maintained it, but didn't really change it dramatically. There were some areas where they made additions. You know, there were other buildings that were built on the estate and then smaller landscapes developed around them. But the landscape around the Oldfields residence remained much as Gallagher had designed it.
Mrs. Lilly passed away in 1965 and Mr. Lilly the following year. The estate and its furnishings were donated to the Art Association of Indianapolis by the Lilly children. In 1970, the estate opened to the public as a museum space for the newly renamed Indianapolis Museum of Art. Today, the IMA campus of 152 acres includes the primary museum building and art galleries, the Lilly House, surrounding gardens, and more.
We think that it offers a visitor an opportunity to have different sorts of experiences at their IMA visit, or different sort of rhythms to an experience. Perhaps someone would go to the main museum to see an exhibit or to see the permanent collection, and then feel like it might be refreshing to have a walk in a garden, say, or to have the opposite, visit the house, visit a garden, and say, you know, I'd like to see what American paintings were like from that time period. So we think it really offers visitors a way to vary their experience.
An extensive restoration of the Lilly House was completed in 2002, which brought the home back to its 1930s appearance. Visitors who tour the home today will find 8 furnished historic rooms on the main level.
We're fortunate to have the majority of the furniture in the house actually to have belonged to the Lilly family. And of course, at the time the art museum accepted the gift in the 1960s, the house was furnished, and so many of the things transferred directly into the museum's collection.
The upper level offers interactive and historical displays. Throughout the home are incredible views of the gardens and the landscape.
And as you go through the house, almost everywhere you look, there's an axis that you can look out upon. The library with its view off to the formal garden, very importantly, that view out the front door or from the family's bedrooms up on the second floor, looking down that grand alley, down at the fountain beyond, really spectacular views. And even out the back side, looking down as Mrs. Landon and Mrs. Lilly later on look down into that ravine garden. To me, it's one of the best views from the whole property.
What started as a country getaway for 2 families is now a treasured jewel for everyone to enjoy. The gardens and grounds are open daily from dawn to dusk, and admission to the IMA Gallery and Lilly House is free. It's a must-stop for any nature, art, or garden enthusiast.
Well, people who come to visit have the opportunity to see what that sense of integration between architecture and landscape was during the American country place era, when many, many wealthy Americans built properties with highly developed landscapes. And so you can see this aesthetic of combining different garden experiences, of combining different architectural styles within this large type of setting.
It's quite unusual in that an estate of this size and caliber exists here in the middle of the Midwest. On the East Coast and even out on the West Coast, there are many large estates that have been well preserved, but out here in the Midwest there are very few. So for this museum to take this on and treasure it as a work of art, which it really is, with its architecture, its furnishings, and its landscape design, it's really quite remarkable.
Okay, this closes out another season of Heartland Highways, and it's been a great journey, and we're so glad you shared it with us.
We hope to see you out there on the Heartland Highways sometime, and remember that every mile is an adventure. Thanks for watching.
Some of my hands are like, this look like I...
I guess.
Okay, we won't do that. Here we go. 3, sit up straight. Oh, wow. 3, 2, 1. Well, this closes out another season.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it is so much.
Yes, it does.
That's
Pop and cake.
Entrez-vous, co-host.
Are you starting?
Sure.
No. Oh no, it would be me.
You
that
go
would
through
start.
Paul, and I go to Paul. I say
Yes.
Paul.
Okay.